I like how this ends. You hear the plane. The plane's. All right. Yeah, that's a song called 747 off of my first album. It's a little bit different than some of the other stuff. It's a little jazzier, I guess. It's got that stand-up bass and it's kind of cool. And then there's some keyboards in there. I'm like Van Halen. I'm a guitar player that plays a little bit keyboards. Actually, it was more like a sequence thing, and then I kind of modified the sequence because I can't really play that good. I think it came out pretty cool. People, when they hear it, they'll dig it. So maybe I'll do some more stuff like that in the future. But that's called 747. It's off the first album. If you want to see what the album cover looks like, it looks like that. It's the black and white one. They blur that the handsome guy there, and then the second album is this other handsome guy over here with the cool sunglasses and doesn't know how to shave right. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about today, but I know it always comes up. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were like, they're on listening to this chat show every week, and they're like, "Oh, I love how it's just a stream of consciousness, and somebody will mention something, and we go off on a whole completely different subject." Let me turn up the volume, because sometimes it never seems loud enough, but the meters are like peaking, so I'm really afraid that it's gonna start going, So, anyway, yeah. So that was an original with some stand-up bass. So 747. You could get this. You could find this stuff on Spotify. You could find this stuff on all the wonderful platforms like Amazon and if you just go to DaveBlair.com, you can just download stuff for pretty cheap. Or if you just sign up to the mailing list on DaveBlair.com, you could or this little thing up here. Wait, it's backwards. This thing up here. If you go to DaveFreeSong.com/free music. Really hard to remember that, right? It's all DaveFreeSong.com/free music. Pretty cool URL. You sign up to that, and I send you like 3 free tunes from the albums. And if you dig them, you can get some more. If you don't, just delete them. But I'm sure you will, because they're just really cool tunes. A little bit of a mixed bag of some funk and whatever. Anyway, anybody have any particular subjects they want to talk about? I don't know, anything anything musical controversies or musical cool stuff or a new album that's coming out or, you know what? Fiona Apple. Remember Fiona Apple? She put a new album out like last month. And her label said, don't put it out now. People aren't buying music now, the pandemic. And she's always an artist. She's like, I made this music. I want the people to hear it. I want the world to hear my music. I'm putting it out. And, almost all major label album releases are being postponed because they're usually supported by a tour and promotion and marketing and blah, blah, blah. You have to hit the market at the right time and coordinate it with your PR and interviews and tours and book release, whatever. And she was like, I put out some music that I like. I want people to hear it. It's called, what is it called? What's the Fiona album called? It's pretty cool. I mean, I still love that the album that was big of hers that she was like criminal, feeling like a criminal. Not that I can sing Fiona Apple stuff, but she's got a new album. It's called Bolt Cutter, I think it was called, and very low tech as far as it's not highly produced like some of her earlier albums. It was just, I think, her in a house. It's still produced well. And there's some interesting, but the instrumentation is very pared down, a lot of very vocal heavy, not a lot of overdubs. It's pretty cool. So if you dig Fiona Apple, check out the album Bolt Cutter. You could get it. You could listen to it, just stream it on YouTube. She's got all that stuff out there. Another thing, Khaki King put out something. I think you just find it on YouTube. A single. I don't know if it's even officially released. She just did a video, like a recording of her playing guitar, and a video of her in her apartment in Brooklyn, just with it's kind of cool. Actually, I could bring it up. I'll play a piece of it. Last time I got dinged I got dinged for putting something on my stream that was like a video of a song that's a copyright or whatever. So, or no, I think it was actually me performing. It's funny. I was performing covers, but usually you don't get dinged for performing covers. Everybody does that. You get dinged for playing something that's, you know, like an album or something on, you know, or YouTube of an actual famous artist, you know, whoever, you know, Rolling Stones or, you know, somebody, a record. But it was my cover somehow got dinged, which is weird because usually if you just slow it down slightly or speed it up slightly or do it slightly different or just talk over it, the algorithm doesn't usually pick it up. So for some reason, my version of whatever song they picked up was so close to the original. I don't know why that would. Anyway, so but what was I gonna play? I'm gonna play a little piece of that Khaki King video just because it was kind of cool, something different. I just have to do this. Right before the stream, I had to restart OBS, so I will have to do it. Why is it not? I have to. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Also, some Triumph. Triumph is going to have a documentary coming out about Triumph. They play the US Festival along with a lot of great groups. One thing that's weird, I think Triumph is the only band of all. I mean, there's like 40 acts that played at the US Festival, and I think it was 83. That was, I don't know, for you youngsters, the US Festival was kind of like the 80s Woodstock. It was Wozniak, who was one of the founders with Apple. He basically invented the Apple computer, and Steve Jobs took it and sold it. So basically, he was, you know, the inventor of the personal computer. But basically, he was, you know, a multi-millionaire at that point, and really, you know, he had already built his thing that became a billionaire. So he had millions of dollars. So he had created his festival. It didn't really. I think they lost money. But what did he care? So they had, I mean, it was Van Halen, I think Ozzy, Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Triumph. I mean, a lot of, you know, and also a lot of, you know, pop bands and stuff like that. I mean, a ridiculous, you know, who's who of the 80s, the early 80s. It was just at the time that metal was starting to get popular. You know, the metal was always underground up and then. It was kind of, you hear maybe some later metal bands like Van Halen or AC/DC on radio, but they never had a big, you know, there was never a big hit. Even people think of AC/DC as one of the biggest selling artists. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, they were kind of known. They had semi-hits, Dirty Deeds, and even Back in Black wasn't a number one album at the time. Over the years, it kind of sustained. Same as like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. It wasn't, I don't think it was a number one album when it came out. But anyway, US Festival in 83, Van Halen was the headliner. I think it was the highest paid act of up to that point. I think they got over $1 million to do on, you know, like an hour and 20-minute set. But it is a phenomenal set. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Joe. Wave. I still don't know what waving means on Facebook, but hi. But the US Festival was right at the cusp of metal, and that was, I don't know, I think Eddie Trunk said something along the lines as that was the coming out party for heavy metal. That was like, there was a heavy metal day on the US Festival, and just as metal was starting to become popular, you had Quiet Riot, who had like a big hit with Metal Health and Bang Your Head, and also Come On Feel the Noise. I forget which one came out first. I think Bang Your Head came out first. I mean, it came out on the album, but which single was released with the video and everything. But you know, they did it. Motley Crue, it came out with Shadow the Devil at the time. It was 82, 83. Van Halen was before 1984, and Jump and all that stuff came out. But if you listen to the actual concert, one thing Van Halen used to do, and you could hear this through their material, they would kind of on one song or even live, they would kind of fiddle around. They would jam for a while. Him and, you know, Alex and Eddie would just jam on stage, and then if you go listen to the next album, little pieces of those jams wind up becoming songs. That's how bands write. So there's parts of songs that are on 1984 in some of the little instrumental 10-minute jam that they do in the middle. You know, and even David Lee Roth puts in some lyrics that are completely different than the lyrics that wind up on the record. As another part, no, I don't know if anybody ever mentioned this, but if you listen to the very end of Jump, there's a little guitar riff just as it's fading out. Something like that. But that riff is one of the main guitar riffs for a song on 5150. I forget which one it is. Maybe we could pull it up in a minute. But the first thing, I don't want to be too ADD, but Keki King had this cool video out. I mean, a lot of her stuff is cool. Teak, here it is. So I'll just play a little bit of it. I think she just during the pandemic, she just did something in her house. And the video is cool because it's basically like a radio-controlled truck or something with a camera on it that she's just driving through her apartment. And I gotta be careful not to play too much of any song because I might get dinged by the Facebook. But it's just kind of super cool concept. If you're at home, you're a creative artist, and you want to, and she obviously she laid out the floor of her apartment with different interesting things to make a video. Pretty cool, And the song is just a kind of atmospheric guitar thing. It sounds like it's the open string thing that she does. I can talk about that. There's a cool guitar. She's got a lot of guitars. I've been at her studio in Brooklyn. She's got a room, like a studio room that she uses just for teaching and just storing her stuff. And she's got cases and cases and cases of guitars. Oh, that guy came for like 2 seconds in the video. So yeah, and then anyway, it's kind of atmospheric. Cool lights. Actually, I have very similar lights here. You can see them in the back. Fuchsia is the cool. Is that fuchsia? Anyway, you can see behind me I have a matching color. Wow, I didn't even plan that. But that's a cool color, I think, because it's not your straight ahead blue, red, green. But anyway, what was I gonna say? If you hear what she was playing there, she has this thing where she has a little device. I don't know if she still sells it, but you take the guitar, and there's a Asian, I think it was a Japanese instrument. I think it's called a koto, which basically is you have you really have your guitar with your strings, and usually you press on frets and play different notes. Well, with a koto, and I'm probably not pronouncing it right. You basically have your flat fretboard, and then the string going across, and then like a bridge in the middle. So let's say you have 6. In this case, she does it with a regular guitar, acoustic guitar. She loosens the strings, puts something right around the 12th fret. That's a little bridge she had somebody make for her. And on this side